Imagine your entire world, built on love and trust, crumbling around you in an instant. But what if the person holding the hammer was your own brother, standing next to your partner? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Hazel. Grab your coffee, because today we have a story of ultimate family betrayal. Silas believed he had everything a person could ever want: a beautiful home, a fulfilling career, and a deep connection. His life felt like a perfectly woven tapestry, each thread representing a cherished memory or a future dream. He truly thought he had found his soulmate in Calliope, a woman whose laughter filled their home with joy. Calliope was vibrant and kind, her presence a constant source of warmth and comfort for Silas. They had built a life together over many years, a sanctuary of shared experiences and unwavering support. Their anniversary was approaching, and Silas was planning a surprise trip to a cozy cabin upstate. Then there was Gideon, Silas's younger brother, who had always been a bit of a wanderer. Gideon struggled to find his footing, often moving between jobs and needing a place to stay. Despite his frequent missteps, Silas always had a soft spot for his brother, offering help whenever he could. He saw the good in Gideon, even when others focused on his charming but sometimes unreliable nature. A few months prior, Gideon had faced some financial difficulties and asked if he could stay with Silas and Calliope. Silas, ever the supportive older brother, immediately agreed, wanting to help him get back on his feet. Calliope was equally welcoming, ensuring Gideon felt comfortable and at home in their spare room. At first, everything seemed fine. Gideon was polite, helpful, and seemed genuinely grateful for their hospitality. He even pitched in with chores, doing yard work and cooking occasionally, which was a pleasant surprise. Silas noticed Gideon and Calliope spending more time together, chatting in the kitchen or watching movies. He dismissed it as natural, thinking they were just bonding as part of the family dynamic. After all, they were both important people in his life, and he wanted them to get along well. But then, small things started to shift, subtle nuances that began to prickle at Silas's intuition. Calliope would laugh a little too long at Gideon's jokes, or their eyes would linger for a fraction too long. Silas would sometimes walk into a room and find them quickly breaking apart from a close conversation. He tried to rationalize these moments, telling himself he was being overly sensitive, or imagining things. His brother and his wife together? It seemed like an absurd and deeply hurtful thought. One evening, Silas came home earlier than expected from a client meeting. The house was unusually quiet, and he called out for Calliope but received no answer. He noticed Gideon's shoes were by the door, and a strange feeling of unease settled in his stomach. As he walked past the closed door to his and Calliope's bedroom, he heard muffled voices from inside. A cold dread washed over him, a primal instinct screaming that something was terribly wrong. He paused, his heart pounding in his chest, straining to hear the words clearly. What he heard next shattered his entire perception of his life and the people he trusted. It was Calliope's voice, whispering words of affection, followed by Gideon's low reply. They were clearly sharing a moment that was far too intimate for a sister-in-law and a brother-in-law. Silas stood frozen, the blood draining from his face, the sound a physical blow to his spirit. The surprise trip, the shared dreams, the years of commitment, all evaporated in that agonizing instant. He felt a profound sense of betrayal, a wound so deep it felt like his very soul was being torn apart. He pushed the door open, his voice a raw, choked sound, demanding to know what was happening. Calliope and Gideon sprang apart, their faces a mixture of shock, guilt, and utter panic. The silence that followed was deafening, filled only with the sound of Silas's own ragged breathing. There was no denying what he had witnessed, no explanation that could possibly make it right. His marriage, his family, his entire future had just been irrevocably broken into a million pieces. The pain was so intense it felt like a physical ache, a burning fire in his chest. In that moment, Silas knew one thing with absolute certainty. Neither of them would ever get away with this. Silas didn't scream or confront them right away. He was too stunned, too numb with the shock. Instead, he quietly retreated, his mind already working, piecing together fragments of memory. He remembered the subtle glances, the shared jokes, the moments he had dismissed as innocent sibling rivalry. Now, every single one of those memories twisted into something sinister and deeply painful. Silas knew he couldn't act on raw emotion. He needed a plan, something cold, precise, and utterly devastating. He spent the next few days in a fog, going through the motions of his life, but his heart was a block of ice. He meticulously began to gather evidence, quietly checking phone records and bank statements. He found hidden messages, secret dates, and even a joint bank account he never knew existed. The deeper he dug, the more the extent of their betrayal unraveled before his disbelieving eyes. His wife, Calliope, had been having a secret relationship with his brother Gideon for over 2 years. 2 years of lies, deception, and a complete disregard for their marriage vows and his trust. Silas felt like he was drowning in a sea of deceit, but he refused to let it consume him. He decided to strategically dismantle Gideon's life first, knowing that his brother valued his career above all else. Gideon was a respected lawyer, highly regarded in their community for his sharp mind and impeccable reputation. He was on the verge of making partner at a prestigious firm, a position he had coveted for years. Silas knew that if he could tarnish that reputation, he could effectively dismantle Gideon's entire professional future. But he had to be careful, meticulous, and leave no trace back to himself. He started by making anonymous calls, leaving subtle hints about Gideon's character and ethical lapses. He hinted at a pattern of questionable judgment and a tendency to cut corners in his legal work. These initial seeds of doubt were planted carefully, like tiny poison ivy vines growing in the cracks of a foundation. Next, Silas created fake social media profiles designed to look like disgruntled former clients of Gideon. These profiles posted vague but damaging reviews, questioning his integrity and attention to detail. They weren't overtly accusatory, but they were enough to make potential new clients hesitate. The firm, of course, took notice. They prided themselves on their unblemished public image. Gideon was called into meetings, asked to explain the sudden influx of negative, albeit subtle, feedback. He dismissed it as a coordinated attack from a rival firm, completely unaware of the true source. Silas watched from a distance, observing the subtle shifts in Gideon's demeanour, the growing tension. He saw his brother becoming more stressed, more paranoid, constantly looking over his shoulder. Meanwhile, Calliope remained completely oblivious to Silas's growing scheme, thinking she had gotten away clean. She continued to act as if nothing had happened, occasionally making excuses to visit her sister or run errands. Silas played along, maintaining a facade of normalcy, but every interaction felt like a performance. He found himself watching her, studying her, feeling a cold detachment he hadn't known was possible. The man who once loved her completely was gone, replaced by someone calculating and deeply hurt. The next phase of his plan involved something more direct, something that would confronted Gideon where it truly hurt. Silas knew about a high-profile case Gideon was working on, one that was critical for his partnership prospects. He had access to some confidential information through his own work connections, information that could be weaponized. This information wasn't illegal, but it revealed a significant oversight in Gideon's case strategy. It would expose his carelessness and directly impact the outcome of the very important case. Silas knew it wouldn't just be a minor setback. It could cost Gideon the entire case and his promotion. He carefully anonymized the data, making sure it couldn't be traced back to him in any way. He then sent it to the opposing counsel, framing it as a lucky break from an anonymous source. The information was too valuable to ignore, too compelling for the opposing team not to use. The trap was set. The dominoes were perfectly aligned, and Silas felt a chilling sense of satisfaction. He knew that soon, very soon, Gideon's carefully constructed professional world would begin to crumble. And this was only the beginning of Silas's meticulously crafted, utterly ruthless revenge. The leaked information confronted the courtroom like a powerful, unexpected tidal wave. Gideon's legal team was caught completely off guard, scrambling to understand the new evidence. The opposing counsel presented the documents with an air of triumphant confidence. The judge's expression grew stern as the weight of the evidence became undeniable. The jury members exchanged uneasy glances, their initial impressions of Gideon shifting dramatically. Gideon felt a cold knot of dread form in his stomach, his composure beginning to fracture. He looked at his lead attorney, who could only offer a helpless, apologetic shrug. The whispers started immediately, spreading through the gallery and then out into the wider legal community. News outlets picked up on the story, highlighting the sudden, damning turn in the high-profile case. Clients began calling, their voices laced with concern, then doubt, and finally, outright withdrawal. Gideon's once unblemished professional reputation was now rapidly unraveling, thread by painful thread. His phone, usually a constant source of new business, grew eerily silent for incoming calls. The partners at his firm called an emergency meeting, their faces grim and filled with accusation. They expressed deep disappointment and a very strong concern for the firm's standing. Silas watched the unfolding events from a careful distance, observing the chaos he had orchestrated. He saw the headlines, the online forums buzzing with speculation about Gideon's integrity. It was a slow, agonizing dismantling, precisely as Silas had meticulously envisioned it. Each piece of damaging information chipped away at Gideon's carefully constructed image. The public scrutiny became intense, with every past decision now questioned and scrutinized. Gideon tried desperately to control the narrative, but the truth was too potent to contain. His explanations sounded hollow, his denials ringing false against the weight of the evidence. The once charming smile he used to win over clients now seemed strained and almost desperate. Margot too started asking difficult questions, her trust in Gideon visibly eroding with each new report. Their comfortable life, built on Gideon's success and her adoration, began to show cracks. The weight of his profound actions was finally pressing down a heavy, suffocating burden. This wasn't just about the financial cost, it was about the public destruction of his entire professional persona. Silas felt a strange mix of vindication and a hollow ache for the brother he had loved. But the ache was quickly overshadowed by the searing memory of the betrayal, sharp and unforgiving. He had implicitly warned Gideon that consequences would follow such a profound violation of trust. Now, those consequences were unfolding in the most public and emotionally painful way possible. The once bustling office emptied quickly as colleagues distanced themselves from the escalating scandal. His professional network, once a source of pride, now seemed to vanish into thin air. Gideon found himself increasingly isolated, facing the fallout of his choices alone. Every carefully constructed lie, every dishonest maneuver was now exposed to the unforgiving light. The damage to his career was irreversible, the professional trust completely shattered beyond repair. Silas allowed himself a small, grim smile, a flicker of satisfaction in his cold, determined eyes. He knew this wound would fester, leaving a permanent scar on his brother's career and personal life. But Silas understood this was merely the first significant blow, the initial unraveling of the tapestry. His intricate plan was designed for a complete, systematic dismantling, not just a single strike. The first pillar of Gideon's carefully built life had now collapsed into ignominious dust. And there were still so many more pillars waiting to be methodically brought down. The thought brought a chilling clarity to Silas, steeling his resolve for what was to come. Gideon's downfall was not an accident, it was a meticulously engineered act of justice. Silas was ready to watch the rest of his brother's world crumble around him, and he knew exactly how he was going to make sure that happened. Silas focused on Gideon's reputation within their tight-knit professional community. He subtly leaked information about Gideon's ethical lapses and questionable business practices. Not outright accusations, but just enough to sow seeds of doubt among key colleagues. He anonymously tipped off a rival firm about a major project Gideon was overseeing. This led to Gideon losing the lucrative contract, a significant blow to his standing. Then came the whispers about how Gideon handled his personal life, especially with Calliope. Silas ensured that the truth about their clandestine relationship became common knowledge. This wasn't about public shaming, but about demonstrating Gideon's lack of integrity. One by one, Gideon's professional alliances began to fray and crumble. His carefully constructed facade of success and reliability started to crack under pressure. The once bright future Gideon envisioned with Calliope now looked increasingly bleak. His life, so confidently built on deceit, was now systematically being taken apart. Silas watched, not with joy, but with a grim satisfaction that justice was being served. And just like that, the final pieces of Gideon's once unbreakable world shattered into dust. So, what do we make of a story like this? It's a tale as old as time, isn't it? The profound sting of betrayal, especially when it comes from someone you implicitly trust, a brother, a confidant, a person woven into the very fabric of your existence. When that bond is broken by such a deliberate act, the emotional fallout is catastrophic. Silas didn't just lose Calliope, he lost his perception of family, loyalty, and love. It's a wound that doesn't just heal, it changes you. reshapes your understanding of the world. And for some, like Silas, that transformation leads to a calculated pursuit of accountability. Was his revenge extreme? Perhaps, depending on your perspective and moral compass. But one could argue that Gideon's actions were equally, if not more, devastating. He didn't just break a heart, he systematically dismantled a life built on shared dreams. Silas's response wasn't born of fleeting anger, but a deep, abiding sense of injustice. It was a long game, played with precision, patience, and an understanding of his brother's vulnerabilities. He didn't resort to violence or petty squabbles. He targeted Gideon's very foundation. His reputation, his career, his standing within their community, everything he valued. It raises questions about forgiveness, about the limits of what a person can endure, and about whether some betrayals are simply too deep, too fundamental to ever truly overcome. Silas found his closure not in reconciliation, but in ensuring Gideon faced consequences. He chose to dismantle rather than rebuild, proving that some bridges are meant to burn. It's a dark chapter, but one that offers a stark reminder about the cost of deceit and the unbreakable resolve of a person pushed beyond their limits, seeking their own form of justice. So, what are your thoughts on Silas's long game revenge? Was it justified? Or did he go too far in seeking to completely dismantle his brother's life? Let me know in the comments below. I always love hearing your perspectives. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to confront that like button and subscribe for more. Grab another coffee and I'll see you in the next one.